Ah, yes. It's another opportunity to do another episode, and this time it's about accountability. Cause I think people need to start taking some. And the weirdest part about it is usually people are like, women never take accountability, but this time it's going to be thrown to the men. It's about time we start holding men accountable for some of the shit that they do, and that's what I intend on doing in this episode. But before I can get into any of that, I want to start by talking about a woman, particularly big one, physically speaking. Now, the artist and social media influencer known as Lizzo recently came out in a statement saying that she is quitting, whether it's music or social media, I'm not entirely sure. And she was talking about how she's constantly up against lies being told about her for clout and views, and how she is made the butt of every single joke every single time because of how she looks. Now, I don't know, maybe this one's just a me thing, but I feel like if you're about as big as Lizzo and you get a joke, it's probably not that hard to deflate it because for the most part, you kind of have to sit on it, right?
The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Okay, no. Maybe that's not the case, but you kind of have to ask yourself, with the size of her body, how many jokes do you think she can sit on and deflate at the same time? Okay, maybe that was a little bit insensitive. I personally feel like if they were that bad, then she'd probably just cut them up and eat them. Because, like her Instagram handle says, Lizzo be eating. Because, you'd probably expect her to suck it up, but maybe she prefers it as a gourmet meal. But anyways, it's insensitive statements like those ones that make someone want to quit, whether it's music or social media, I'm not entirely sure. And in her case, I'd probably go ahead and read a caption, but fortunately I have this statement here, so I'll just read that instead. So she said, and I quote, "I'm getting tired of putting up with being dragged by everyone in my life and on the internet. All I want is to make music and make people happy and help the world be a little better than how I found it. But I'm starting to feel like the world doesn't want me in it. I'm constantly up against lies being told about me for clout and views, being the butt of every joke every single time because of how I look. My character being picked apart by people who don't know me and disrespecting my name. I didn't sign up for this shit. I quit." End quote. Now, I don't know, maybe this one's just a me thing, but depending on how you carry yourself on social media, you will get certain treatment based off of that. Now, you realize this with disabled people that'll make jokes about themselves. People will laugh because even though it probably feels bad or it might feel like a dark joke, if you're willing to laugh at yourself, people are probably a little bit more willing to laugh at you. And in her case, she kind of infantilized the whole being fat thing. Like, she made it seem like it was this glorious thing for her and she enjoys it, and she'd eat a bunch of cake and like post it up on IG, and she'd dress up in certain ways and shit. So for people to kind of find it funny or at least make jokes about her, I feel like she was kind of looking for that from the jump. So for her to turn around and be like, this isn't nice, I hate being the butt of every joke, you practically kind of put yourself in that position. Also, she did do a reality TV show whereby the people that were on that show ended up suing her for poor workplace treatment because she was making her cast do a bunch of inappropriate shit like sucking on a banana and sexualizing a bunch of shit that shouldn't even be sexualized, like, fruits. And to be honest, I feel like whatever jokes are being made about her were coming her way whether she wanted to or not. But all in all, she kind of did try to double back on this entire thing. And, she came out with like a video a couple of days later after this statement was put out. And she started talking about how she hasn't quit music or social media, but she said, "I quit to the negative criticism" or some shit. To which, honestly, all of this just felt like a quick clout chase for her to sort of seem relevant for a quick second so that, people can remember that she still exists. And I think now no one really gives a shit. So I'm going to leave it at that and start the podcast because I should have started it like 1-2 minutes ago by saying, welcome to the Break Time Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who likes his girls BBW. Because if there's more to love, then there's more ass that can sit on some of these jokes. He's a man who believes that astrology should have been the study of ass. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. This episode has started on a heavier than normal note because I thought that I'd be laying off some internet weight by talking about Lizzo, but no, Nope, she's not quitting, so the weight is still there. But all in all, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you managed to get till the end, and if there is any input you'd like to give, whether it's feedback, whether it's potential topics, then at the breaktime_podcast on IG is where you can send the DM to, or at the Breaktime Podcast on Facebook. And if you're on Twitter, you can slide into my personal DMs, which is at Bagaka the D. And all of the socials that you can reach out to are usually in the description if you don't know how to spell any of those. Now, with that said, I have an episode that I do need to get to because there's a bunch of accountability that I need to throw the guys' way. Although, before I can get into any of that accountability talk, I need to first start by speaking for a couple of guys that aren't as well known but kinda sorta know they're there, but we usually don't acknowledge them as much. And those men are church boys. Yes, I know I've called them church boys and yet they're supposedly men, but you kinda get why in a little bit. Now, there was already a post that I saw over the weekend which kind of piqued my interest because there was a guy who was busy talking about church boys and the fact that they either have to abstain or use a condom because they are fucked. Now, I'm just gonna read the post real quick and I'm gonna omit some bits because it's a long ass post, but I'll try to keep the most context heavy things. So it says, and I quote, "In the past, niggas who grew in church, or rather in staunch Christian homes, used to exploit their newfound freedom by engaging in alcohol, partying, weed, and all this other stuff people do out here. With time, I've seen many of the new generation not engaging in this quote-unquote pleasures of the world, but rather the trend is now changing. I have seen many guys I grew with in church have children before they marry. This is so strange to me. Let's explore why it is strange. First, most of these guys are well learned. They have university education, they also have decent jobs or just very prospective careers. Most of them are 28 years or just below. On the contrary, most of the girls getting their kids have barely either a diploma or just some college level education." Yes, you think I'm doing some classism here. Not really, it's just an observation that will lead us to find the strangeness of this occurrence. These guys went to uni. You want to tell me that none of those ladies would have fallen for the advances, hence get pregnant for them? Nah, mate. So what's happening? Ladies know and understand men's weakness. Church boys are extremely vulnerable when it comes to women because of one reason. They abstained when they were growing up. You know, sex was very scarce or non-existent. When women find these types of boys, jackpot. She knows her struggles in life are almost over. Now the plan is simple. Get pregnant and lock the nigga forever. Most church niggas didn't have to use condoms when they were young. They just know about them but didn't have to use them for obvious reasons. Abstain till marriage. The next move might take even weeks, but the babe is usually meticulous about her moves, and the nigga will never know, but in due time she'll suddenly call and be like, "Babe, I've missed my periods." Most church niggas don't know what to do. They let this scam run until it's too deep. Most of them feel the shame of it. They hide this even from their parents, and the parents, most of them church elders, normally just close a blind eye to this scam. And simply, just like that, a girl gets married, secures a good future by tying down a quote-unquote innocent church boy. I've seen this a couple of times before and it is becoming really rampant. Y'all church boys, if you read this and you're in a relationship with free-flowing sex, start using condoms or just end that shit, because whatever is about to get you is just warming up and will barbarize your life. Anyways, mofos, abstain or just condomize. End quote. Okay, now I was actually about to sort of ignore this. I didn't even intend on having this on the episode up until I looked at one of the comments, and when one of those guys said, "Just say SDA guys," and the guy was like, "Yeah, but I don't know about other church denominations," my interest was piqued, because guess what? I am someone who has been born and brought up in the SDA church. So I know a thing or two about SDA guys, and I can probably say something about this entire thing. Now, can we conclude that this is a church boys problem? Well, not necessarily. You can say that they're the most susceptible to it, or at least they're the most likely to be susceptible to it, but I can't really say that this is just a church boys thing. There's a lot of guys that fall for such things, and I feel like with the wrong woman, any guy is very, very susceptible to this, not unless if you got a vasectomy or you have, issues with sperm count and shit. But with that said, I do think that church boys do stand to actually be more susceptible. Reason being, they just don't have as much exposure. And I can explain that in two ways. They don't have much exposure in that there's a lot of very, very religious Christian SDA boys that do not interact with any other people besides other SDAs. So you find that this is a guy that actually prides himself in like being SDA and being in church and shit, and his close friends and his other friends are from the SDA church, and he doesn't interact closely with people from other places, regardless of whether it's other churches or in school or at home and shit. So you find that the only people that they listen to or have any real good relationship with is a guy from the SDA church who also isn't exposed. Then on top of that, it's not like conservative churches like the SDA church usually engage in talk about when you're sexually active, because the whole talk is just abstain from sex till marriage. And because of that, it's like and as a result, they tend to think that that's how they've sort of ensured their kids or whoever it is that's growing up from whatever issues will arise, such as baby trapping. The issue is, in today's day and age, that's a massive flaw in terms of thought process to have, because we are currently in a time where most people are having sex before they get into a relationship, sometimes even as a prerequisite. So these guys are probably already sexually active, whether you want to talk about it or not. And as a result, you find that these guys are engaging in sex. They don't know that there's some babes that will actively baby trap a guy if they feel like they are of a particular sort of value or status, and they can use them as a free meal ticket or just as a potentially good father to whatever kid they have, or as a great life partner. Like, there's a lot of babes that do that. And so just like that, you find that a lot of these guys probably don't pick up on this shit because they don't have such conversations with other people, and because a lot of families don't talk about it because they want to maintain a certain kind of reputation in the church. You find that such stories will be swept under the rug and people may not even talk about it, even though the parents will probably know about it. So what I can probably tell any SDA guy or any conservative guy is have these conversations and form friendships with people aside from why you normally just go to church, or aside from just the regular people that you chill with, because you learn a lot of shit like that. Like, you may not have to be as sexually active, but the moment you get sexually active, you kind of get to know these things by default over time, because you'll just hear more and more stories from other guys that are super sexually active, or from even women that are sexually active that might be engaging in such things. But all in all, I understand that I can be wrong about this shit, so I will leave it at that and move it on to our main topic of this episode. Now, while I was on Reddit, I stumbled upon a very interesting post which was titled, "Do Girls Really Help Men?" Now, normally I go and I look for the relationship topics, and those ones are usually fun because sometimes there's a dilemma I can sort out and shit. But this one particularly piqued my interest because I feel like it's something that has been mentioned but mostly in passing, and it kind of relates to something that I spoke about not too long ago. Now, the guy kind of came through with a particularly long post where he said, and I quote, "I just came across a post here on men helping women and them disappearing. Then it got me thinking, when have I ever actually received any assistance from a girl? Like, almost nil. I just want to know why women are mean in helping men. Is it the same case when women help women? Like, I can give a good example. I was looking for a job and I was about to get one, and the girl who was the HR assistant was telling me basically they have happy hour after 5 p.m. basically to go clubbing, and I don't drink or do clubs, and I guess that costed me the job. Also, she gave me really bad advice on my CV, and I was literally not getting interviews, so I had to redo my entire resume again. I have actually worked in a company with mostly girls, and I will not lie to you, they like to drink. Like, what's up with girls and drinks and clubbing? Basically, every colleague was forced to changa money for clubbing every week. If you didn't, they secluded you. So now there's a girl here that told me she is looking for a job, and I know an opening where she can get one. Now this got me thinking. I am a nice person and I would very much like to help her, and I'm not attracted to her, but I know she won't be a friend as with my previous experience. Basically, nitende mema niende zangu. It's good to have connections, and I would very much like to help someone that can keep in touch and also help when I am stuck. What do you guys think? Is this a common issue among girls, as I have also seen in previous posts and also my experience? Or am I just picking the bad apples? I feel like the universe is testing me and I am honestly seeing myself helping her. I just want your input. End quote. Okay, so I was fortunate enough to actually find the original post that he was talking about, where, men were busy talking about not getting help from women. And the post itself actually said, men, if you help her once, she'll come back to you when she needs help again. And the guy kind of pretty much ended it there, and a bunch of guys are talking about it and about how women don't help and shit, but it didn't even get that much engagement, interestingly enough. But with that said, when I actually looked through the comments of this particular post that I just read, I noticed quite a lot of people who are saying, as a man, you're on your own. And there was even someone who added that women won't help men and men don't even help men, so you're sort of alone as a guy. Which I found to be particularly interesting because it sort of reminded me of an episode that I did about 2 weeks ago, which was called When Did Men Start Whining, where I spoke about how men should start helping other men. And this is a very clear example of the situation I was talking about. Guys don't help each other, and people know this shit. Guys aren't helping each other, and it's pulling us back, and now we're forced to think that we're actually alone. But anyways, that is episode, I think, 484. You can go and check it out. It's a pretty nice episode. But that aside, with whatever the guys said, I feel like first, before I can really say whether it is women help men, I first would want to at least give my experience so that I can get my personal bias out of the way. Then I can speak objectively on this entire thing. Because I'm sure different people will have different experiences, so there's definitely some level of bias. Now, personally for me, I will say that women do actually help men, and I've been a big recipient of that help because I have received quite a lot of assistance from quite a lot of different women, and I have managed to get into certain rooms. I have attended and participated in conferences and even been introduced to people, as well as information that I wouldn't have had access to if I wasn't interacting with those women. So I've had a pretty positive experience in terms of receiving help from women. So at no point in time will I come out and suddenly be like, women have never helped men. Because I'm a man, I've been helped quite a bit by women, and honestly, I have nothing but good things to say about that help. But with that said, before I could even ask the question of whether women help men, let me start by pointing the finger at the men and ask, do men actually help the women? Because honestly, before I can start pointing any fingers, we need to start by asking this entire support question. Because I already asked the whole men one, and we already know for a fact that a lot of men do not help other men. Hell, we actively try to bring each other down for some reason, which I don't entirely get. So, do men help the women before we can ask the women to help us? And the reality of it is, we haven't been doing a particularly good job of that. And in reality, there's a lot of us men who have been pegging our help on things like sexual favors and a chance to date or be with this woman in some way or another, or some other sort of favor from the woman, which has made the whole idea of a woman receiving help from a man particularly hard, and has probably turned quite a number of women away from even the idea of trying to seek help from a man. So it's a very disgusting way to look at guys, and it's not very nice, and it doesn't reflect on every single man or even the largest majority of men as far as I know, but there's a lot of men who've been doing it, and it's one of those things that I just have to point out. And to be quite honest, there's a lot of men that also haven't helped women because they just don't interact with them. Like, let's just say it for what it is. But with that said, do women help men? And the answer is a lot of them actually don't either. But I don't think it's for the same reasons. Okay, granted, there are women that will want to help men but also peg that help on sexual favors. And it happens quite a bit, don't get me wrong, but amongst quite a number of women, it's sort of a nuanced thing, and there's not that many women that engage in that. So I'll kind of just address that as its own issue, but sort of leave it where it is, because I feel like there's bigger reasons why it is women actually don't help men. Now, the very first reason that I can definitely say why women do not help men is because they just don't have male friends to help. Like, let's just say it for what it is. you find that there's a lot of women that, yes, maybe they could help, maybe they should help, but because they don't have a close working relationship or a close relationship with a guy, then the chances of them even thinking of helping this person isn't something that's usually on the cards. On top of that, there's a lot of guys that also kind of decided that being friends with a woman is not a good idea because they thought that it's either you want to shag them or they're in the friend zone, and that's a bad thing. And as a result, you find that there's very, very few male-female friendships that exist today of, like two people of the opposite gender that are particularly good friends to help each other. So as a result, these guys aren't getting help from women because they're not good enough as friends to actually receive that help. Now, there's other things like women wanting to help other women only because, maybe they're in an industry where they feel like, there's very few women, so the woman would much rather go and help another woman come up as opposed to a guy. But I feel like that one is a little bit more nuanced as well. It's probably about as nuanced as the idea that a woman will help a guy, but she'll probably want some sort of a special favor of the sexual kind. But all in all, I feel like the main reason is because there's not that many women that have that many guy friends that they can help like that. And interestingly enough, this issue actually sort of even transcends the entire gender line. Like, it's not even about men helping women or women helping men or men helping men or women helping women. It's literally a case of people will help each other out because they like each other or because there's some sort of mutual benefit. Are there people that will help someone else, no strings attached, it's not like there's anything there? Yes, they're there, but most times the drive to help someone else for most people is usually pegged off of some version of mutual benefit or because they like the person or are particularly close with them. And I will admit that is pretty much the driving force behind me getting all of the favors and the assistance that I've gotten from women that has enabled me to say that women do actually help men. Because in my particular department at work, it's like 80-85% women. My supervisor is a woman. All of my bosses that go above her all the way till the general manager are female. So essentially, like, the only people that can assist me at that point for the most part are going to be women. So the assistance that I get from any of them is usually down to the fact that I have a particularly good working relationship or there's some sort of mutual benefit that I'm giving. Of course, a lot of them are very optimistic about me and they do want to see me succeed, but when it comes down to it, at the very core level, you can actually see those two things kind of shining through. And at the same time, it also justifies why a lot of women will help a lot of other women that they like. Because if you observe particularly well, you'll see that women actually support other women very, very well. And it's something that I've spoken about more than once. It's something that I spoke about on episode 484, Why Did Men Start Whining? Because it's something that's allowed a lot of women to grow and progress quite fast, whether it's in the corporate world, whether it's in business and so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, women actually support other women very well. And interestingly enough, if women like you, you can also progress pretty quickly. You can end up getting quite a bunch of support, and it's even a proven fact. If you want a very simple example, there's a comedian known as Matt Rife. This guy got online success simply because women liked him. This guy pretty much had sold out tours in different places around the world last year simply because women liked the fact that he was attractive and also liked the crowd work videos that he used to post up on TikTok. And this guy blew up simply because most women actually liked him. So if there's any proof that women actually do support men, it's that. Which kind of leads me to my conclusion in all of this. If you really want to ask if women do actually help men, then maybe we should also ask why it is that women aren't helping men. Maybe it's the fact that quite a number of men aren't actually creating good platonic friendships with women. People aren't maintaining good working platonic relationships with women. So as a result, if these women get access to opportunities, they can pass them up to other people, or they won't even remember you because you weren't memorable enough, or you don't hold enough of a good standing in her life that she'll be like, you know what, I think X would be very well suited for this particular role, or for this particular kind of business, or for this particular tender. So maybe if we fostered better relationships with women, platonic ones, that is, or even non-platonic, but as long as it's a good working relationship, then maybe we can actually get access to quite a lot of this so-called help that a lot of you people talk about. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of guys that are out here busy saying, oh, men and women can't be friends, men and women can't be friends, and if that's the case, then there's someone who's being friend-zoned. But at the very same time, they're doubling back and they're saying that women will never help a man. Like, if you haven't been enough of a friend to a woman, how the fuck do you expect her to help you? Actually, even screw the women part, even make it gender neutral. If you haven't been close with someone, if you haven't had a good relationship with someone, how the hell do you expect them to help you? Not unless if you're some version of a beggar and they're a good Samaritan. So honestly, I feel like for us men, maybe we need to step it up on the friend side and stop looking at a lot of the women around us as useless, not unless if there are any sexual or dating potential. Although then again, maybe I'm looking at all of this wrong and maybe I should probably just leave it aside because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Either way, I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On IG, it is at the breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the breaktime podcast. And on X, it is at Bagaka the D. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.